So this is the OnePlus 5T, and if you're like most of the general public and don't have $1,000 to spend on a smartphone, but you want a high-end experience, then there's a good chance that this phone might just be for you. Now, the first thing I want to make mention of is the updated design, and I say updated and not new because the only real significant change from the OnePlus 5 is obviously that display. In pretty much the same body as the 5, the 5T sees the introduction of a taller 18:9 display that slims out the top and bottom bezels to make it fit pretty much right at home with the bezel-less trend that took the smartphone world by storm in 2017. The thing with the 5 was that despite the beefy internals and great performance, it felt somewhat outdated straight out of the box because of those chunky top and bottom bezels. And so now with the 5T, we still have those great internals and that amazing performance, but with a design to match the modern era of bezel-less smartphones. The 5T now all of a sudden belongs. And whilst I like this move from OnePlus, if you compare the 5T with every other bezel-less flagship that came out in 2017, it falls somewhere in the lower end of flashiness. It fits in, but it doesn't stand out. What makes it feel great in the hand though is that curved metal rear to the device. It has that pebble design, which makes it a really premium feeling phone in the hand. And so then we have the software experience of the 5T. And as always, for me, this is perhaps the most important aspect of a phone. The design of the phone, that's something you move on after 2 weeks of using the phone. The software, that's something you consistently use day after day for the entire lifespan of a smartphone device. So yeah, it's more important to me. And OnePlus has always had great software, and they've been refining their Oxygen OS since 2015 to make it one of, if not the best operating systems you can have on any Android smartphone. It's very similar to stock Android, both in look and in the way that it feels, and although it has been departing slightly over the past few releases from what we get on Pixel devices, that has, for the most part, only been in good ways. Features like a dark theme to really make the most of the AMOLED panel, a series of gestures to make using the phone quick and convenient, as well as a range of other customization options to make the phone look and act like you want it to. All of these are useful additions to an otherwise stock, beautiful Android experience. And that leads me to performance. Now, when you're talking Android smartphones and which one is the best in terms of performance, the answer will always most likely be the Pixel devices from Google. But OnePlus has actually always been on par with and sometimes even outclasses the Pixel devices in terms of speed and reliability. Everything just feels like butter on the 5T. Animations are smooth and stutter-free, opening and closing applications is lightning fast, and the phone handles pretty much anything thrown at it with absolute ease. I feel like the performance of the 5T is perfectly summarized by the performance of the fingerprint sensor. It's now on the rear of the device, which is my preference in location, and it is staggering how quick OnePlus's fingerprint sensors are. Haptic feedback is instant, and the phone unlocks a moment later, and it's super accurate as well. We also now have a new unlocking method for the 5T, which I'm sure you've all heard of by now, and it's called Face Unlock. And just like the fingerprint sensor, Face Unlock is lightning fast as well. And battery life has been great too. I have no problem getting through a full day with medium usage, usually with about 30 to 40% still remaining on my phone, and I've been able to get roughly 5.5 hours of screen on time, which is great. And then there's dash charging, the amazing miracle charging system by OnePlus, and with the 5T, it will take you around 1 hour on the dot to charge from 0 to 100%. It's phenomenal. Now obviously we can't go a full video without talking about the camera, or cameras in this case, so let's talk about the cameras. We no longer have the telephoto lens that we saw on the 5, and instead in its place we now have a 20 megapixel secondary lens, which OnePlus has claimed will make a much bigger impact on the low light performance of these cameras. And whilst I do really like the images that the sensors can take in optimal conditions, it's hard to distinguish when the secondary lens is actually being used in low light conditions. I do think that there has been somewhat of an improvement in low light conditions, but whether this is enough of a significant difference to warrant removing a telephoto lens, which I think is actually a very handy feature, is another question entirely. We do still have portrait mode, or depth effect as OnePlus dubs it, and it works fairly well, although I've found using the latest Google camera mod with portrait mode can generate much more authentic portrait images with a blur that looks much more natural than the one created using the OnePlus camera app. But save for perhaps the absolute hardcore photographers out there, the cameras on the 5T do a great job and get a tick of approval from me. So where does that leave us? For me, I really wish the general public knew more about these OnePlus phones because of how good they are. Sure, tech enthusiasts are all over them, but I have one friend who owns a OnePlus device apart from myself in an entire circle of people that I know. One friend. But in saying that, having upgraded from the OnePlus 3T to the 5T, what I can say is this. Once the awe of the design eases off from the 5T, because of the amazing software, they actually all end up feeling the same. And I think this is a good thing. My 3T performed pretty much the same on day 300 as it did on day 1, and that gives me confidence going forward with using OnePlus devices. Would I upgrade from a OnePlus 5 to a 5T? No, I wouldn't. Literally, the only positive change is that display, which is great, but you sort of forget that it's even there after a few weeks of using the phone. But all in all, the 5T is still an amazing device, particularly at this price point, and I can safely say it's worth checking out for yourself. Yo, huge shout out to Gearbest, who were awesome enough to send me the 5T for a review. They've been really great to me over the past year in sending me lots of devices to review and to create content on for this channel. So please go and consider showing them some love by checking out the links below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will catch you later.